last time on the Lords of Grantham podcast, we talked Season 2, Episode 1 of Poldark. And in that episode, Ross was about to stand trial for helping to murder Sanson on the beach. That fellow we knew from last year who was a card shark. And he helped people steal from a ship, and he's just going to trial for this because George wants him dead. He wants him hung for, pretty much crossing him. But, he's got some evidence here from what Ross got involved with. And also, not to be discounted, Francis tried to kill himself. And we will see if he succeeded or not this week on the Lords of Grantham podcast.
And we're back once again. Poldark, Season 2, Episode 2. What's going on, Corey?
Continuing what happened in week 1 of Poldark, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Last we saw, Francis was blowing his brains out, and now we'll see if, in fact, he is dead.
I mean, we discussed this last week, but...
He's not.
He's not dead. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, not yet. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but, a couple things. We had our virtual 5K over the weekends. We extended the invite to anyone who was willing to join. Mm-hmm. It's all for a good cause. And, I think a couple people participated, and
yeah, we appreciate that. We appreciate all the. I know there were some issues about logging time. I know I got a message from one of our participants saying well, I didn't know how to log the time, so I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know. And it was like, hey,
it was a poor system. They really kind of just deep sixed the whole virtual thing. They had available a sign up, and then they just kind of de-emphasized it once they realized they could get people in person.
Yeah, and what my response. It was our friend Haley. My response to her was, it's not necessarily about how good of a time you do. It's about supporting the good cause and getting out there and moving your body. So,
right. But we'll take the time and we'll make due note of it.
Oh, yeah. If they do it again next year and we want to do a virtual team, we'll say, hey, I don't think anybody did beat your time, though, Corey. So,
hey, man,
unless your old roommate and former guest of the Patreon, Sean Moore, was one step ahead of you.
No. It may look that way, but I was a good 50 feet in front of him. I could have dusted him, but I was trying to keep him in there a little bit.
Wow! And good thing is he doesn't listen to this podcast, so he'll never know.
He won't know. But anyways, we were at a wedding this weekend, Dave and I was just doing laps around the Sheraton Hotel in the middle of Connecticut.
Yeah, another former guest of the podcast, our friend Connor, who was on a couple episodes, Mixed Match Challenges and whatnot, said that he was sitting in the lobby kind of waiting for people to arrive, and he saw you, and he said, we're just going to run around the parking lot. And then he said, they just ran around the parking lot. Literally.
Yeah.
When you're in the sticks of Connecticut, that's...
we'll travel.
That's what you do, yeah.
Yeah.
So is there any news on the fronts of our shows? The Poldark, The Crown, Downton Abbey?
The only thing making some waves was there were photos from the set of The Crown with Elizabeth Debicki as Princess Diana wearing as, what they referred to in the Diana musical as the FU dress, the black dress that was very famous for, showing how she upstaged Prince Charles, after all their, fallout. So she looks a lot like Diana Debicki in the dress. She looks great, also she's 6 foot something tall, but looks a lot like Diana. Get hyped.
Yeah. And that's next November, right?
Yeah, we still gotta wait a year for that one. Yep. She's 6'3", as a reminder to people.
Jeez. Is Dominic West gonna have to have lifts in his shoes?
Yeah, he's gonna have lifts, and then he's gonna have ear extensions, I think, to embody Prince Charles.
He can get that controversial the shin growth operation
to make him taller to stand up next to her. Unless they make her seem smaller somehow.
How old was Princess Diana in real life? 6'5"?
Oh, how tall was Princess Diana? I thought you were asking how old she was.
She was 5'10". So
yeah, she wasn't short. So yeah, it attracts tallish ladies.
Yeah. Well, let's see how tall Prince Charles was or is. He's 5'10" as well, so they're the same height, so she could never wear heels, huh?
Yeah, maybe that's how it works. One will wear heels, the other won't.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got a year before we see how that shakes out. But in the short term, Poldark, right?
Yeah,
Poldark season 2, episode 2. I mean, last week picked up with the to be continued. It didn't really follow that way so much as just kind of felt like an extension of the first episode.
Absolutely did not follow that way. That was a spoiler alert. We'll just say it took 15 minutes to get to Francis.
Right, they treated it like any other like episode. It was like maybe some producer thought add to be continued at the end of the last episode to keep people hooked in. It was just like, no, this is just another episode. Poldark doesn't feel like the second half. I mean, I guess it is tackling the entire trial of Ross Poldark, but
maybe they aired back to back or something.
I sincerely doubt that, just because how few episodes there are.
So this is episode air date September 25th, 2016. Episode air date for season 2, episode 1, September 25th, 2016. So they aired the same day.
Okay, that is strange though to think that like there must be something off though.
It's a loaded premiere.
No, because if you look at the whole scheduling on there, it's kind of off on the IMDb. So don't trust it.
Oh, I trust it fully. Has my trust.
IMDb always lies. But I mean, it is a strange thing to say to be continued, and then the next episode would immediately start thereafter. Like you'd think that's there to keep people waiting. One would think. I would think.
Well, we don't know. We can't speculate.
Well, okay. Well, I can. Look. There's Wikipedia, which is much more trustworthy than IMDb. Season 2, episode 1 debuted on September 4th, 2016. The next episode was September 11th, 2016. So, there you have it. IMDb lies. So if people wanted to know if these episodes were played back to back, they were not. With that said, though, it picks up with Demelza kind of having a dream of her and Ross at the beach and happier times.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure if that was that literally happier times, or was that just a sort of dream of her future, of being able to exist in that again.
I mean, either way, it's happier times, isn't it?
Yeah, happier. I didn't. Yeah, but not necessarily flashback happier times, just ideal happier times.
Yeah, it was because a dream.
He definitely had his Jeff Goldblum hair, which I do. That's speaking of that, we should discuss in the Facebook group. Our friends did alert us to the fact that Aidan Turner had cut his hair between seasons, and they had a special wig that they had to bake and treat before he put it on every day. So
yeah, the hair was in fact fake,
and it's a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it looked off. It certainly looked off. I'm glad to know it wasn't just because he changed like how he did his hair in terms of conditioning. So
yeah, and that one, it is not supposed to be in kayfabe. It is just a circumstance of being a busy actor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so Ross is still in jail.
Yep. I mean, it's moments
not
later.
In jail, but yeah, he's waiting held. His trial. Yep. They show him the list of people who are going to speak against him. It's a long list. There's like a couple dozen names or more.
Yeah, this tankard fella, this sort of crooked lawyer man working under George, really did the legwork.
I mean, even on the list is the one and only Judd Painter. He's going to testify against Ross.
Yep.
And we'll see how that turns out. There is there's a weird side thing here that happens early on where we see Mr. Penavin and his niece Caroline. It's just like a night out, and Demel's there, and she's talking to Mr. Penavin, and he directs her to the judge, but in like a really roundabout way. She's like, "Is he short and stout?" And he's like, "Long and tall."
They're playing to guess who.
Right. And is he like to drink? No, he's sober. Well, there's nothing more intimidating than a tall, lean, sober man. They will be in control of situations. So she's going to talk to him.
But she gets his ear for a while, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, she's getting him to the point where she's about to tell him that, maybe these people who are going to give testimonies at the trial, they might have been paid off. And he's like, I'm listening, and who gets in the way, Dave?
George. And we see it. It's like a movie. I mean, it's a show, but it's like very dramatic. She sees him coming down the hall, and she starts sweating. She's like, oh, no, I got to get this information from point A to point B as fast as possible, and doesn't quite get it.
No, because he comes in and drops the bomb and is like, oh, so you're talking to the husband or the wife of the man who's going to be on trial? The woman married to Poldark? And he's like, oh, the judge is like, okay, I'm getting out of here. I don't like this at all.
Yeah. And George?
Judge Lister.
Yeah. I feel like George is particularly salty this episode for many reasons. But I love how he has to include all of his gentleman formalities. So he's like nodding and bowing to Demelza. He's like, hey, stop trying to screw up me trying to get your husband murdered.
Yeah,
good day, ma'am.
You gotta admire George's tenacity here. He's really gunning to get Ross dead by pushing the whole case against him. So yeah, he messes up Demelza's chances there. Meanwhile, at this party, I mean, there's some people outside that are protesting because it was election day, as we heard in the last episode, and there was a tie for second place, and Unwin Trenevin, he was tied for second place, and he kind of wants to get out of there because it seems like the people outside aren't too happy, but when they reveal like the results, George suggests to Unwin, go claim the second chair before the other person does. This is your chance to get on there. And this guy, he looks like he's a bit of a dunce. He gets on there, and they're hoisting him around as if he won his election. And then a guy who was in the first episode of the show who helped beat up whoever was attacking Ross's wheel leisure area, he throws poop at Unwin.
Great.
What did you think of that scene, Dave?
I was like, I don't understand anything going on right now. I feel like this is a lot to be throwing at us, given the fact that the last we saw, Francis was trying to blow his brains out. My brain was not into this at this point in the episode.
I had similar confusion. My other point of confusion was, they have this whole, crowd out there that are kind of protesting, and this guy just happens to find a whole stepped on. Yeah, all these turds were just perfectly laid out. No one had stepped on them, despite this whole crowd and everything. And you just see, 5 or 6 droppings, and this guy is able to just scoop in there and grab a pile. It's like, well, kudos to that crowd for avoiding stepping on poop, just to leave it there for this guy to throw at this man's face.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of animal poop, and maybe this guy it was his own.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if this will tie into much in the broader sense of Poldark, but what it leads to is the guy who slung the poop getting brought down to jail, saying, you can't hold me back, getting hit in the face with the butt of a rifle. Like, he gets knocked out cold into his jail cell. And then we shortly see thereafter that he is sentenced to hanging for what he's done. And Ross sees him as he's carried away. And pretty much just portends that, man, things may get dire for Ross if this guy who just slung poop is getting sent to death.
Yeah, and they say hang from the neck, and you see the guy walk. He's like, "Oh, come on, man!"
All he did was just throw some poop, man. Like, I don't know. It seems a little crooked back then, the way they judge things. But that was my takeaway. I mean, maybe this Unwin Trevenance. It sounds too close to Penavin to then say Trevenance. I don't know. He's related to Caroline. But I don't know what this whole election has to do with anything, really.
Yeah, he's in the Penavin crew.
Yeah, and he knows George, so he can maybe manipulate things a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, like the George endorsed candidate, basically.
It just seems like a lot. I mean, just going back to how this show throws a lot of plot in there, this is one where it's just like needed a little bit more room to understand what this was exactly.
Yeah, just give me a little breathing room to comprehend these 3 new characters that are clearly going to mean something going forward. Maybe you don't front load the episode with them.
Yeah. And there's other little pieces early on in the episode. Elizabeth confronts Aunt Agatha because she's sick of her negative predictions. As we all know, Mon Mothma from Return of the Jedi, she says she's not divining the future. She's playing a game of ginger snaps or snaps.
Great, great to put eyes on this subplot. But I guess it does come back later on.
She does tell Elizabeth to go to the trial. She'll not be satisfied, so that's why Elizabeth goes.
Yeah.
And Dwight is on the scene as well.
He's a character witness for Ross, as we established. Nothing really new. We see he bumps into Caroline again.
Yep, they make eyes at each other.
Yep, and she's like, I really want to see what you do up there.
Show me your moves. They are quite the attractive potential couple. Like, a lot of blonde going on there, but they are an attractive couple. Are arguably, in some sense, maybe more attractive than Ross and Demelza. I don't know if that's too confrontational, but as soon as they're on screen, it's like, man, these people could easily like lead the show. They're that, much of a couple hunks.
Like all three of the big couples are all very attractive. Francis acts like a buffoon, but I think he's a good-looking man.
I don't know. He's got some pretty chubby cheeks.
That's just because he's sad.
You get chubby cheeks when you're sad? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
I don't think that's happened to me.
Judd is very sad.
Oh, so Judd and Prudy is the third couple, really?
Yeah. Well, Judd, Prudy, Caroline, and Dr. Dwight, and Francis and Elizabeth. Those are the big three.
Okay. Yeah, we'll rank them at another time.
Yeah. That'll be our Valentine's Day special.
Yeah, the couples of Poldark. So, what was it? We finally get to Francis, though.
Yeah, so we see Dwight is going back to his room, in which he said that Francis could crash on his floor, and the door is locked from the inside, and they're like, he says to the owner of the inn, he's like, dude, you gotta open the door. There could be someone who's sick in there, who he needs help. And and it's one of those moments where you're like, all right, so did he like blow off his ear or something like that?
Yeah.
And then Francis just opens the door like Kramer. It's like,
right, because I mean, Dwight has an idea that something's going on. Because he says like, we need to break this door down. This guy may have done something to harm himself, and then, yeah, like you said, he opens the door and like,
it's like Seinfeld. Like he's just all straight. He's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. He's like Kramer, just walking in there really quick, and he talks about how the gun misfired, like there
was no flint. Yeah, it didn't connect with the gunpowder.
Right. Which still, you'd think there'd be some kind of like soot or something on him. It's like something to represent
that time.
Where did he wash his face? He didn't leave the room, right? It's still locked.
But it's not like a hostel. I'm sure there's a washroom or somewhere to.
I like the idea that he's just licking his hand, then clean the side of his face.
Just licking up gunpowder off his hands.
Yeah. He's in a real rough state, though. He's just talking about death. Are you a fatalist, Dennis? Are we masters of our destiny? And
he's
Dwight
wired up, man. He almost died. He had a near-death experience.
Yeah. And there's nothing more than Dwight can say. It's just like, wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. Cut ties with all the lies you've been living in. And he'd understand. But what was it? I like that Dwight Francis says to him, I guess it was in poor taste to use your hospitality as the location for me to kill myself. Didn't think that all the way through.
He's turning into Kramer, man. He's just
he's a stranger. He's a strange man. And he's like, do you just want to keep talking? Like I got nothing but time now. I was planning to die, but now I can just keep talking.
He's like, hey man, maybe you want to sleep in the room that you paid for at some point.
Right, and I think like the next scene is just like Dwight waking up, and we see him sitting in bed looking at Francis holding the gun. Like, what a visual to wake up to.
And he's like, what are you doing, man? And Francis is like, hey, I would need to go to town to buy the gunpowder. I'm just cleaning it. I'm not gonna do it now. It's like he's taunting Dwight.
Right, yeah. He's like, you think I can do it here? You think I won't do it? I could. And Dwight is just like, just take a step back from that ledge, bro.
He would understand.
He would understand. And that's pretty much it on the suicide plot for Francis for now.
Oh, it comes back at the end in a big
little
way.
bit. A little bit. So what was it? Demelza's beside herself.
So we can just keep going down in order. Demelza sees George again.
Yeah.
And she says, "Why do you hate him?" And they basically have a pretty heated back and forth where he says he's a minor and you're a grandson of a. She's like, you're just a daughter of a minor. You wouldn't understand. And he said, you're a grandson of a blacksmith. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
And he's a gentleman. And she said, well, I'm a gentleman's wife. He said, soon to be a gentleman's widow.
Cold-blooded, man.
And I think that's another moment where he's like, and good day, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, he does his platitudes and he's just out of there. Always a gentleman, George.
I don't know. I mean, that's a big stretch of the phrase.
Yeah, formalities, whatever. What was it? They're also reading to Ross like what he has to say in court, and he's like, "I'm not going to put my name to that. I can't stand by that stuff." And his lawyer's just like, "All right, man."
His lawyer's like, "Dude, what are you doing, man? Like,
what is wrong?
You're making it very difficult on yourself, dude." Mm-hmm. But we see Ross is busy. He's got a lot of lists of papers and a pile of papers going on.
He's trying to sort it out. And we still see Demelza just going through the throes of her unhappiness. She's, talking to Verity, how she lost her child. Now she can't bear to lose Ross too.
Mm-hmm. And we also see a brief scene in the pub with Judd.
That we do. He's chewing on gold. He has a gold coin in his hand.
He gets paid off by Tankard, the lawyer.
Yeah,
and
he must have been.
Like, you think it's going to be fake.
He's reconsidering.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's where then we see the scene of the guy who was slung poop getting charged for murder. What was it? We see the judge talking to the jury, trying to tell them, think about this. If he was at all involved in the day's activities at that beach, he is guilty.
Oh, that's later. That's a little ways down. Yeah, that's later.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty
so we actually get to the courtroom scene, right?
Yeah, we get to the courtroom. Is right. We go right from there to.
Oh, so like the first trial of the day was literally the guy getting convicted for slinging poop, and now it escalates to Ross.
We got a hot court right now. We got the judge sending someone to hang by the neck for throwing a turd.
Mm-hmm. And now, this is the Ross going to it, and just as the trial gets underway, do we see Demelza's father appear yet again? Tom Karn, I believe is his name, and this again, it feels like a Seinfeld, like the finale of the show, where like all the people just come into the courtroom to like speak their piece against the main characters, because Tom Karn was not invited. Demelza's father was not supposed to be there.
No. Even George is smart enough not to put those, to try and have such a wild, manic street preacher there.
He calls Ross a devil in gents' clothing, thinks he's above the law, and they're just like, get this guy out of here. Get out.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where, from there, it's a bunch of these sort of paid-off character witnesses saying that Ross is a bad man and all the bad stuff that he did on the beach.
He attacked the custom officers.
Yep. And then we see that Demelza can't stand it anymore. She's got to go get a breather. And who is outside waiting for her?
Elizabeth.
Oh.
And they're having a conversation, and she reveals to Elizabeth that, yes, Demelza is with child again.
Uh-oh.
It's coming. Ross does not know it all.
So we don't want two widowers, or we don't want more bastards running around.
I think it's just single mothers would be the way.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
With whatever Ginny's kid is up to is all.
Yeah. But We got one of our boys going up there on the stand, though, Dave.
Oh, it's Judd.
Absolutely. Now, did you know before this moment that Prudy was his wife?
I didn't know that she was actually his wife.
Right. When they actually explicitly said Prudy is his wife, I was like, wait, what? that's a chaotic marriage if there ever was one.
Yeah, just bums basically.
Yeah, I mean, unless they meant his work wife or something.
I mean, they're out of work, so
that is true. So you drop the work and then she just becomes the wife.
And Judd turns it around. He straight up turns babyface. He says,
real quick. I mean, it was like a Big Show almost type moment for him, like the wrestler who frequently flip flop between being good and bad, because we barely even seen him turn on Ross to the point now where he was like, oh no, he's already back to being good, Judd. He got his gold coin.
But Judd did Ross did fire Judd unceremoniously over some comments, so it's.
I mean, I don't think it's unceremoniously. Judd was accusing him of sleeping around town and fathering bastard children.
Hey, well, that's why he got fired, and so it wouldn't be out of unreasonable for someone like Judd to say something negative about him. But okay. Judd, he comes hard in the paint. He's like, "Nice, good guy, stand-up guy."
Yeah, I mean, he told us that there may be people drowning. It was going to be a watery grave out there, and the lawyer's like, "Wait, this is going against your given statement that you read aloud, and then you signed."
It's one of the best. This is a top tier moment of the show for me too, because Judd just does the greatest comeback of all. He's like, "What? Huh?
I'm hard of hearing.
I can't hear."
I must have misheard what I said, and I just totally made a mistake. What do I know? that rapscallion Judd, what a man!
Oh, what a mighty good man!
Absolutely. And it's funny because George is like a little heated over this because like he didn't anticipate this. This is not supposed to be happening.
Oh yeah, George is George is getting pretty hot, and you can see he's stewing because this is his plan is not working.
No. And then we get
Captain Bray comes up.
Right, Captain Brayer sounds like, I don't know, what the fish captain from The Simpsons, because he's like, "Aye, yes, we sunk ashore." And it's like, where did they find this guy?
This is just, in my opinion, this is just a failure of being a good lawyer from Tankard, because this dude comes up and gives a testimony that like this is what the people were doing, and then Ross is like, "Hey, can I get a word in here, brother?" And they're like, "Come on, Ross, tell us what you got to say." And he's like, "Hey, what happened when you got there?" And he was like, He's like, "Y'all told me, you told us not to go around the drunken rioters." Like, and then where did I take you? You took us to your house. And did I harm you? No.
And then you fed us, and then we slept there, and then you tended to your sick wife.
And then it's just like, what the heck? These people are just bad work, Tankard. Not good. Not a great look.
Yeah, and they try to double back. It's not even Tankard who's the guy cross-examining. It's a different guy because Tankard's the guy who's in the dark hair.
This I actually enjoyed this character. I'm looking on the IMDb. I can't even find him. The lawyer who is George's actual lawyer. Is it? Yeah. Richard Delane? Henry? I don't know.
Well, he's the prosecutor. He's not George's lawyer necessarily.
But. Yeah. But he's on George's. Yeah, bankrolled this whole thing effectively. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, and then it's these guys start going crazy. This sort of people that George again and Tankard have paid off to be there, and they get removed. Steve Wilkos just comes out into the crowd and says, "You all got to go. You're out of hand."
Yeah, just not the scene for it. And then that's when we get Dwight Ennis up there to speak as a physician that, Ross was dealing with his child who had died. There was the putrid throat going around that he had to deal with, and he was suffering a mental breakdown that, in his estimation, there's no way he could have been part of these activities.
Yeah, and he effectively corroborates the fact that in the downtime after he left Captain Bray, he was tending to his wife.
Yeah. Because the lawyer makes the point that, like, oh, he was gone for 2 hours while you were at that house. Where could he have been? Out murdering innocent people? Maybe. But no, he was tending to his wife, as Dwight said.
Yeah, yeah.
But it really paints a clear picture of his state of mind.
And then Ross takes a stand and makes a statement.
Yeah.
In the most Ross fashion.
I mean, we do get a moment, though, before where George is like, he intends to celebrate tonight. He's already, like, thinking he's got this sealed, you know, and he's going to get control of that mine eventually.
Yeah, yeah. And then Ross gets up and he's like, hey, I did this. I did a lot of this stuff, but I didn't take anything. I didn't steal anything. And he basically says that this is the way of the world, you know. If there's a shipwreck, you that's your stuff, that's your life. He said, I didn't kill anybody.
You help the people that are begging, who need the materials more than the rich.
He basically says he's Robin Hood on the stand.
Yeah. And of course he raises his voice. He looks like a crazy man and does not do himself any favors for this case. We literally see his lawyer his eyes roll into the back of his head, and yeah, he's just like, I just can't have this man. No, he doesn't say anything, but just like the look on his face says, "Oh, like I lost this case."
I don't care how passionate you are, man. You can't keep shooting from the hip like this and getting away with it. You did some bad stuff, man.
Yeah.
And this is the moment that the judge basically says, even if he's not guilty for these crimes, the fact that he was involved with this riot is enough of a punishable social offense that get rid of him. You know, he should be punished. Which, in my opinion, is a very bad decision from the judge to say.
Yeah, it's a little strong.
He's like, hey, I'm not telling you, like, if you were being accused of wearing a black shirt, even if you were wearing a gray shirt, you were wearing a black shirt. It's like, no, that's not how that works, Judge.
I think we need to get our lawyer friend Kevin, who we have on retainer, to come discuss this with us, like we did the trial of John Bates.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's a big ask, because does he have to watch a season and 2 episodes of Poldark?
No, I think he can just see what evidence is presented before him in this trial here and make a decision.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe at the end of the season.
Yeah. So one other thing was, before we even get to the verdict, we do see a moment where Elizabeth is outside talking to Francis, and she lets him know that, you know, she's there because she was concerned for Ross. But you know, she's there for Francis. She's there.
Yeah. Also, Ross compliments the prosecution. He's like, "Hey, you did good.
Yeah,
you stuck to your guns. I'm proud of you."
Yeah, you stretched the truth. And we totally glossed over. There's entire sections of this episode of Ross trying to determine what to bequeath to Demelza should he die. So, like, he has his father's derelict mine, which they make a point to acknowledge. And I wonder if there's, like, something there, you know, like, even though they say it's derelict, because I feel like we haven't talked about it much.
I always thought Wheel Leisure was his father's derelict mine.
That's what I thought, too, but I guess there was another one. I mean, again, this is our fault. The show's about mining.
The show's about mines and miners.
That's our fault. I'm sorry. But anyways, though, yeah, he determines what to leave to her, which isn't all that much. Anyways, back to what the result is. There's a scene of also Francis reciting some poetry too. I don't know what's going on there.
It's some Kramer stuff.
He's a weirdo. And Ross asks, will he have a chance to say goodbye to his wife? No. They will directly take him to the hanging if he dies. Should have thought about that before you gave your impassioned speech, Ross. So, do they find him guilty, Dave?
No.
No. Otherwise, the show would end.
You are not guilty. And
yeah.
What a moment.
The prosecutor's beside himself. He's like, wait, huh? We had this guy dead to rights with all the evidence that we had stacked against him.
And then he came up on here and he started talking about himself.
Yeah. I almost feel like the show overplayed its hand in terms of Ross making that speech for himself, because, I don't know, he comes on so strong in that scene. It makes me think, like, how could this guy actually convince the people to, like, you know, think he's innocent? Because it's almost like he doth protest too much. And just thinking what the judge instructed the jury, you know, don't think about the personal of like the common man. Think about the evidence. Whereas Ross is totally appealing to the common man. I don't know. It seemed like he was coming in a little too high. I almost didn't buy the not guilty verdict.
Well,
even though I know he's not guilty, I just didn't buy it the way it played out.
I mean, he is guilty in some of the things, some of the accusations.
Yeah, sure. He was there. He was actually there.
But we get that sort of classic end of the episode of any sort of group gathering where we have everybody walking out and dealing with it in their own way. And the first situation is Verity goes up to Francis and it's like, "Can we get along?" And Francis is like, "Yeah, we can, but not blame me."
Still not going to forgive that guy. I still got one bullet for him.
And we see Elizabeth is crying, and Francis is like, "Would you cry for me?"
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "What if I was dead?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And
let's just count our blessings, okay? Leave it at that.
And then he pulls out the hat again.
Yeah.
And he puts the hat on, and the hat man is back. I think that's what's driving him crazy, is that hat.
Mm-hmm.
It's possessed, I think.
Oh, you think he's got like some hat that's talking to him?
Some Mad Hatter kind of stuff going on.
Okay. Maybe. He's got the hat from Hogwarts, the sorting hat, just telling him to things
potentially.
Could be. The hat has been around the block.
And then we see they deliver us the goods that we've been waiting for the whole episode. We get a shot of the cliff.
Yeah, they're back there.
And then all the poor people are on the beach.
Yeah.
Ginny. The other guys.
Everyone's there happy to see he's back for that brief moment. And what was it? Painter. We hear George talking with the tanker on what they'll do. How they can get even with Painter because he recanted. It's like, no, not him. He's too small of a deal. They could break Francis tomorrow because of how he holds the finances, but
George won't do it.
Right, because I think he's considering Elizabeth. He doesn't say it explicitly, but I think that's who he's thinking of.
Oh, you see it in his eyes. That boy's eyes.
Yeah. And the last thing with George is that like a moment later we see him waking up with a golden gun beside his bed. Literally, like, just coated in gold. His gun. He's a man with a golden gun. Mm-hmm. George.
We also see that Aunt Agatha. They walk in and they're like, "Hey, Aunt Agatha, it happened." And she's like, "I called it." And we get a little
credits. Yeah. It was all a dark joke. She never meant to, say the guy was going to die. We get a moment of Ross saying, "Oh, Judas." He's referring to Judd, which made me wonder, is Judd's full name Judas Painter?
Well, I just think he was making a joke about how, Judas, biblical Judas.
Right. No, his actual name is just Judd Painter. It's not actually Judas Painter.
And that's a fun little scene where he's like, "Hey, why don't we go find 2 servants? People that work on the cheap." And then we see it's like a cartoon character duo of Judd, like Scooby Doo, like.
Oh yeah, let's go get some work.
We gotta hurry.
Credits. And one other thing too is Tanker warns George that Ross is alive now, and he's not going to take this slight of you coming after him to put him to death like lightly. So don't forget that that's still hanging over our heads.
Yeah, this dude's a ruffian. He did this.
Yeah. Credits. And the last thing is Ross and Demelza in bed, where you can see she's trying to work her way around to telling him that she's pregnant, but doesn't get there because I think they just settle for
he's not dead.
Making love again.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That is Poldark. Have I told you how I felt about a reckless husband? She says to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
little scene. Fun little scene.
She grabs him by the hair and then his wig falls off and she's like horrified.
He's bald.
But credits. And that's this episode. Was this a good episode, Dave?
Oh yeah, of course. It was a great episode.
I loved it. I feel like any show with a trial where they take their time going through the paces of people going up there and pleading their case, it's never not going to work.
Even the trial of Mr. Bates is not a great TV show trial, but
Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of the episode. That one. It literally is in the middle of that episode.
Very dramatic. It's a good one though, but it's not. It's not a full 2/3 of an episode like this is. So this is.
Never fails to build
delivers.
attention though. For sure. Aside from the poop slinging, that was the only thing I was like that. Didn't need that, but otherwise, great episode.
It didn't need so much exposition to set up for it.
Right, because last week kind of already set the table, or as it was.
I mean, if we want to see how radical this judge is, you could have had the episode start with something happens where, we're at this party with Demelza and whatever their names are, the judge and Penevin. I'm like, oh yeah, a guy just threw poop at Unwin, and now he's getting taken to the jail. Like, you don't need to. You can tell not show in certain situations. That this is one of those situations.
Sure. Yep. Well, we got some power rankings.
Yeah. Who do you got going down, Corey?
At number 3, I got Demelza. Her attempts to win over the judge just completely hurt Ross's chances. So rough. She's clearly pleading and not getting through. So, yeah. Not a great week for Demelza, really. Even if Ross gets off, we don't see him getting off until there's credits. So
well, I got going down the poop man.
Okay, hardly know his name, but yeah, I like that they call back people who showed up in previous episodes though. Like, he's just a townsperson.
Yeah. So he's kind of not. He's a red shirt, but he's a red shirt with a little bit of backstory.
Yep. Number 2, I got Tankard. The guy completely botched doing his job. I won't say completely. He was able to, make a convincing case to the point where Ross had to thank the prosecution for what they have done thus far. So, almost got him, but didn't quite do his job.
He's also Tankard's a bit of a hunk in and of himself. He's a little bit of Gerard Way.
I think so. He looks a little Weasley.
He's an emo boy.
Yeah, he is definitely an emo boy. He doesn't see much sunlight for sure.
Well, I got the judge going down at number 2 because this guy, Judge Wentworth Lister.
Yeah.
He tries to be all high and mighty and say, this is, he won't talk to Demelza, and then he's talking, tells the jury, don't base this trial based on what you have to base this trial on. Base it on good and evil.
Yeah.
And then, it's too bad, bud, you lost.
That's fair. Number 1, though, I feel like you can't really debate it. It's George.
It's George, man. This dude won season 1 from us, handily.
Yeah, and this is his first significant L. He just can't put Ross away. I think he's just going in a little too early for the kill here. Maybe wait till season 5.
I had him going down last week though, so I think I
sure.
He counted all his chickens before they hatched. He
Absolutely.
tried to kill a man who is a ruthless man of the people. Like not going to be easy for George going forward. He's going to have to sleep with one eye open.
Right. So not a good look for him all around. Well, Dave, who's going up for you?
I got the good doctor, Mr. Dwight Dennis, at number 3.
Same here.
He's a competent character witness, and the girl has a crush on him. Cute girl.
Yeah, he's a solid dude. Yeah. So far.
Adulterer, but okay.
No, he didn't cheat with Karen. He didn't go all the way.
Yeah, he did. They were sleeping together.
Did?
Yeah, they did.
Well, it was like a one-time thing. Well,
because she died after.
Yeah, well, anyways, who's number 2 for you, Dave?
It's Judd, man.
Same. Judd is going up for me, too, at number 2.
What a week for Judd. He gets a payday.
And How can you not pop for that guy?
He swerves. He keeps the payday and swerves. And then he gets his job back at the end of the episode. Big day for Judd.
Good for him. Great guy. Real great guy, that Judd.
Yeah, big fan.
And I think we got to be in
great
lockstep
guy.
on
He just did
a
good thing
guy.
this week. Ross is number 1.
Obviously. The man escaped death, and I almost feel like this is going underrated. He did it almost single-handedly. Like, he was the one who cross-examined the captain and then made the case for himself at the end. It wasn't even the lawyer doing much for him.
Oh, yeah.
So,
good week for old Ross. Big week.
Coming through for himself.
For Aiden.
Yeah. I even forgot about his wig for this week for the most part. He it was okay.
I mean, I definitely did not forget about that wig, but
okay. All right. Well, I'm still excited for where the season goes because really, that was almost like a cap to the end of last season. I want to see where we go next with all this drama.
Yeah, we have these 3 new characters. I feel like we're gonna do something cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is that. And Dave, is there anything else you want to touch upon?
I really didn't get up to watching anything last week. I know I was this wedding we went to. I had to perform. I had to play some music, so I was a little busy learning the song, practicing, getting ready. So, no, nothing for me. What about you? Watching anything good, Corey?
No, it's been a heck of a busy week for me too. Honestly, I'm just
you watched the New York Marathon in person. How was that?
Oh, of course, it's great. I mean, I saw a few of my friends running it. So, a day after shouting along to songs at a wedding, I was then shouting for people to keep running.
How crowded was it?
It was way too crowded. So they had a field of about 30,000 runners. Usually it's closer to 50,000. So they had fewer this year, but the crowd control was not strong enough. There was so many people inching into the road, and police was not doing enough to hold them back. I just heard stories of how they just had like narrow lanes where it was almost single file sometimes because of how much the crowd was trying to step in there to cheer people on. I get it. People are excited for things to be back, but come on, gotta respect the runners here.
Oh yeah. It's about the runners.
Yeah.
It's not about you, the fan.
Yeah, I mean, and it was the other thing. I went to a concert last week, and crowds are hot, man. Crowds are ready to be back at concerts. It literally sounded like audience noise was being piped in from behind from somewhere because it was just so loud inside the room. And live events, man.
Be careful out there.
Yeah, I wore a KN95 mask the entire time. You can do whatever you want, but that's just how I'm living my life. I'm just taking it day by day.
All right. Well, we'll be taking it day by day with newly freed Ross next week.
Absolutely. I think we can wrap it there, though, right?
Yeah. Nothing new to report. Yeah. Hit him with the socials.
I mean, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Lords of Grantham at Gmail. If you want to email us, we have our website on Podbean. TeePublic, we got our merch on there.
Yeah.
You can find that link on our Twitter. And 5-star rating review if you so choose. And we have a Patreon.
Go for it. Yeah, we gotta look through to see which ones of our fans won, and they get picking for what our content is this month.
Absolutely.
A little reprieve of a theme month, which is a nice thing for us. We can just do something fun.
Let's do it.
Unless it's some torturous thing.
There happens to be a Thanksgiving movie starring one of the Down actors or something.
Yeah, that would be. I would not be a fan of that, but
Okay.
maybe. Well,
maybe.
Until we meet again, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening, all that fun stuff.
Next time.